Right. So in this video, I wanted to just really quickly give you an overview of what it takes to basically build an info business, a coaching program, a mentorship around your audience, and basically scale it to anything above 10K per month and start making some significant amount of money. Now, I'm not going to go into extra detail. I'm going to make those videos later on. But in this video, I just wanted to quickly go over the three main things that if you have dialed in, you basically got a successful info business. These are the three components that are basically common in almost every single six-figure, seven-figure info business coaching program out there. Okay, so the first one is that you need to build trust. You need to have some sort of audience. Now, of course, you can, go the paid ads route, but once again, the thing is that we are trying to not spend a lot of money upfront without having full assurity that basically it's going to give us the best returns and that our money is not just going to go down the bin, right? And so it's, if you have some sort of result, so for example, you have a business, you're doing good with it, you started making some money, you are in the biz op niche, maybe you are in the fitness niche, whatever it is, whatever skill that you're teaching, of course, if it has some sort of return on money, which is basically it's in the biz op niche, business opportunity, it's the best. But it doesn't really matter. You need to have some sort of audience, because the thing is that with AI, with basically everybody starting to sell these coaching and mentorships, the only one that going to stand out and the people who are going to be successful with it is the people who build the most amount of trust and credibility with their audience. And so you we are basically transitioning into a time where basically people won't really buy into the actual information and the course as much as basically they're going to buy into a person. That's what we are seeing already. And so it's like they need to know, like, and trust you. They need to basically buy into you as a person. Of course, if the offer isn't good, it's not going to really work. But those things are things that basically you might, a lot of people will get right. The thing, however, most people won't get right is that people buy into people. People buy from people, people don't buy from companies. And so, especially in this info space, and so that's why you need to become someone, and you just need to have that trust and credibility with the audience. The easy thing to do is just stand out and be real, be authentic. Instead of just sharing generic advice, start sharing your story, start sharing who you are as a person, start sharing basically how you got to this point, be a little vulnerable, start sharing your struggles as well, right? All of those things, right? But you need to have some sort of audience, some sort of trust. Now, secondly, another point in this is that it is much more easier, strictly talking about selling info, selling coaching, selling mentorship. It's much more easier to do it if you have audience on a long form, on a long form like YouTube, rather than basically having 10K, 50K followers on IG or TikTok. I know of people who have basically 1K, 2K followers on YouTube, and they make significant amount of money. They make much more amount of money than people who have 50K, 100K on IG and Instagram. IG, Instagram is the same, sorry, IG, TikTok, X, right? So basically, long form is the way to go, because once again, people spend more time with you, they know, like, and trust you, you build that credibility over time. That's the first point. You need to have some sort of audience, they need to know, like, and trust you. The second thing is that you need to nurture them. So this is basically that now that they actually like you and they actually trust you, and you have built some credibility around your specific ICP business model, or basically the skill that you are trying to teach, you need to nurture the audience. And so this nurturing is through basically, the easiest way to do this is through basically some sort of email list. Start building out email list. Now, you don't need to go and build a newsletter. but it's that you need to have basically touch points with them. You need to be constantly in front of their mind. You need to basically, if you're selling info, you need to basically constantly warm them up through sending emails, through sending reminders, through basically actually, once again sharing your story with them and continuously being in front of them. And so that nurture process in basically any any successful info business would look like basically when the actual client, when the actual viewer go into your ecosystem, how do you basically bring them into your ecosystem from the platform. And so that's basically, maybe you're warming them up through your basically email list, or basically you bring them all to some sort of free community, or maybe a very very low ticket community, just so that you can have them all, or maybe even a broadcast channel, just so that you have basically them all in one place. And now you can nurture them, you can own that audience, you can actually build more trust and build more credibility with them, and just nurture them overall with basically continuously being in front of them. So that's basically how you nurture them. And if you have basically the third step of this process will be the actual conversion. And with a high ticket program, with a high ticket offer, it's almost always some sort of you know a sales call. And so you need to sell them on the sales call. But the nurture process that I was talking about is everything that goes before that sales call. And so that basically pre-call flow, basically, right? So that's actually setting them in the right framework so that they actually buy on the call, or maybe basically sending them some testimonials and client results, so they actually know that basically this is something that have worked for previous people, for previous clients, that have worked for other students as well, and that's the reason why it will work for them as well. So you need to nurture them before actually selling them, right, before the actual conversion step. And so it's like you have the audience. That's the first thing. You have the audience, you build the trust, credibility, you send them to your ecosystem so that you can nurture them. And before the actual selling process, the conversion process, which is the third step, you need to nurture them through pre-call, basically either pre-call emails, maybe you have a dialer in place which dials the leads as soon as they come in, so that basically they are pre-framed. And basically you just build that trust in them that this is something that can potentially work for them, that they you need to make them see that this is something that they can be doing and they can be successful with. And then the third step is actually the conversion. And this is usually through basically a sales call. If you're doing it yourself, of course there is a lot of thing that goes into the actual sales process. But on the sales process, the main thing you're doing is you're finding their current position, where they're currently at. You're finding their desired position, which is what where they want to go basically. And then you find what are the obstacles. And if you have done your job right, and you have nurtured them right, and you have the right pre-call framework, and you have the right pre-call email setup, and you bring them on the call, and you do this, then the actual selling becomes very very easy. You just have to qualify them, you have to make sure that they are a fit, and they will eventually basically start selling themselves on this, that why they think that this is something that will work for them, and they can see it doing. And so these are the three steps. And of course it is simplified, but I wanted to keep it that way. We can dive into details, and I will dive into details later on. But this is basically how everything goes. You have the audience, you build trust, credibility through some sort of content, basically flow. You maybe have your short form content, you bring from that short form content, you just gather the audience, you gather as much audience as possible. Then you actually qualify that audience, and qualify your ICP by more long form videos which are more valuable, which is targeted towards one specific client, which is basically value based and not just pure entertainment. And then you basically have a nurture process, which is basically bringing them into your ecosystem, having some sort of contact point with them whenever you need. So that can be through an email list, that can be through a telegram, that can be through a broadcast channel. And you nurture them, you get them in the right framework, and then you basically just sell them and convert them through a sales call. And those are the three steps that goes into basically building this. And if you are a coach slash creator who is already either started doing this and now needs to scale this and make significant amount of money, or maybe you already have a decent audience. By decent I mean you are averaging about at least 1k views on YouTube making niche content, or you have 15-20k followers on Instagram, then I have a free consulting call below. And by the way, I'm not going to pitch you on any 5,000, 6,000